to the Red and Blue Review. Nick, Ian, Jill, and the crew are waiting to hear from you. So get those comments in.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and a very warm welcome to the Red and Blue Review. My name is Nick Philpott and I'm going to be your host for the next hour. And look at this lot. I'm joined by a fabulous crew this evening. I'm glad to say Noble's not here. Mind you, Noble's not anywhere at the moment, is he? He didn't even bother rocking up to the City Ground last night. He has.
Yeah, he's definitely a plastic.
Absolutely. And it was just so, I mean, I threw the fishing rod out on Twitter yesterday, plastic, and I know he got loads. Welcome, Yasmin Broom. How are you? Well done for travelling out with us last night. It was great to see you. I'm sorry, I obviously just walked straight past you, didn't I?
Yeah, no, that's all right. Just absolutely shattered.
Yeah.
Because like you've done a full day's work as well.
I have. Also welcome, normally in the background, but our illustrious leader, Lucy Usher. Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you very much, everyone. It's good to be here, Nick. Thank you.
You know what? It's been too long.
No, you know me. I like hiding in the background. But if you sort of put your hellos in the chat and say where you're from, and I'll get them on the screen, and we'll give some shout outs later. But of course, please do remember to put your comments in as we discussed last night's game. But thank you, Nick. Back to you.
Okay, Greg, I hope you're well, buddy. It's been a long time. And for those of you who don't realise, Greg Ellis, who is sitting on your screen right now, is one of the original founder members of our Red and Blue Review family. Are you okay, mate?
I'm good, thank you, mate. Thank you for having me back on.
Buddy, how many years has it been now?
Crikey, I think we must have been doing this 7 or 8 years now. This has been going like some time.
Mad. It's mad.
I wasn't sure if we'd last more than 7 or 8 months.
Yeah, there were 7 or 8 shows even. I'll tell you how long ago it was. Tim Richards actually had hair when we first started. Good evening, Tim. How you doing, mate?
Thanks for that. I'm glad you spotted me sitting here. You know, always good. Yeah, and I can't believe you didn't spot Yasmin last night at the ground. But yeah, good to see everyone.
That's two. I've got two. Nobody knows what we're talking about. It's a private joke between us. Okay. I'd like to say good evening and a warm welcome to everyone that is actually watching on YouTube at the moment. Hello and thank you for joining us. It's going to be a difficult one. I'm quite honest with you. I've actually thought about not even doing the show today. It has crossed my mind, but the show must go on. We are consummate professionals and Tim Richards. So we're going to crack on. Okay, Luce, can we please kick off, if you'd be so kind? Greg's going to cover off a lot of the actual talking points. Could you just kick us off, first of all? Because I think there's a couple of interesting points on the lineup, please, because I just want to talk about the lineup. Thank you. There it is, as you can see. Henderson in goal. I'm sure we'll be talking about our Dino later on. Folks in the chat, don't give him too hard time. He's saved us more points than he's cost us this season, okay? He made a silly mistake last night. He should have saved it, but we'll come on to that during the game. Munoz, Lacroix, Gehi, Shalabar, Mitchell, Hughes, Lerma, Kamada, Nketiah, and Eze on the starting lineup. And on the bench, we have Matthews, Ward, Saar, Mateta, Schlupp, Klein, Wharton, who I also want to talk about, Kapoor, I don't know too much about him, and Ash Agbamoni making his debut for us on that. Right, can we start off, okay, before I hand over to you, Greg, can we start off with the lineup, okay, because I actually want to talk about the bench, really. We were talking off air, Greg, before you joined us, okay, Yaz, we were talking about Wharton. What is the point in Adam Wharton at the moment? Why did he travel to the City Ground yesterday? He used a lot of those substitutes last night. Wharton spent most of the evening running up and down the touchline, warming up, okay? To be used, just sit down, and he looked completely disgruntled after the manager made his substitutions. Why did Wharton actually travel? We all know he's injured. We all know he's got to have an operation. Just get it done. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when he was on the bench, then I did think, he was going to come on because, like you said, he was warming up every 5 seconds. So, and at one point, I think I chat, just get Adam on because, we needed something. But if he needs the operation, then just do it so that he's back sooner than later. Just delaying it, I don't see what help that is. His family were there. They were obviously expecting him to come on at some point. So it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, Tim. Separate question. We'll carry on with the lineup in a second. Very quick questions here. Is it panic time yet? Are we in panic stations mode?
I don't think we're in panic mode yet, but I definitely think questions need to be answered, or tricky questions like Eze's form, the manager, definitely need to be asked, because I can't see any improvement. It's not like you can see, there's a plan and they're working to this. So I wouldn't say it's panic yet, but it can't go too much longer.
Okay, Lucy, I'm going to ask you a question, totally unrehearsed, but how much longer does the manager get?
I think he's still got a good few games in him. We did have a stellar end of the season, and I think that does give Ollie some grace. For some reason, he doesn't seem to be inspiring the team at this time, but I believe in him. He's a quality manager. It's just looking a bit wobbly at the moment. So I don't think it's panic stations, but it's uncomfortable stations at the moment, I think.
Thank you. And Greg, I'm coming to you shortly. Okay, Crystal Palace ended last season with 6 wins from their final 7 games, and their immediate future looks bright. They had the joint highest points tally in the Premier League, and a new manager who won a European League 2 years previously. Now, after defeat at the City Ground last night, they are on their longest winless start in 31 years. Manager Glasner has already said that the first goal is not to get relegated. As it stands, it should be the only one. And that was taken from quotes post-match last night. Greg, over to you. I'm going to feel free to ask you questions as you go along, and we'll talk about any major talking points. But over to you, buddy.
Okay. Well, look, first of all, I'm just going to give a little disclaimer here. Unfortunately, I don't have the panache of Senior Noble. So, unfortunately, this might be a bit of a meandering dialogue. So, I will do my best. I think in terms of panic stations, to be honest, I'm a bit on high alert, because I'm starting to think that we're not going to get European football now.
Very good.
There is still a possibility, though, because there could be 3 trips. There could be a trip to Cardiff, Swansea, and Wrexham. So, never say never.
And that's why you're back on the show, mate, because you're the consummate professional. You've been working on that all day, every day. Get on with it.
Okay, so look, I think really within the first 15 minutes, I actually thought it started quite brightly. It was very end to end, and I think the standout performer really was Henderson from Forest, and who'd done a few mazy runs, cutting through from the 18-yard box and narrowly putting it wide. Just we couldn't get a toe on it, could we? Really, it just seemed to skip past the defence. Seemed pretty stoic. No real sort of cohesion at the back at all, which is a bit surprising, really. Appreciate Lacroix new and just come into the side, and Chalabar is new, but we are 8 games in now, and you would expect a little bit more. A bit more understanding, I think, especially given that Glasner is the system manager. They know what it's going to be. So I think really to see Forest sort of just darting through our defence early doors, I was thinking, right, I'm a bit worried here. We could leak. But yeah, after 15 minutes, obviously all square. And another takeaway point, I think Nketiah had a few bursts early on. He seemed to look kind of not composed enough, I think, when really taking the opportunity. But that's not really meant as a criticism. I think he's obviously bursting to get his first goal in the Premier League for Palace, and I completely understand it. And I thought he looked very bright. He looked up for it, and I thought every time he sort of got the ball that there was a bit of potential. And I also think early on, Eze as well. I think it was really Eze and Nketiah that were kind of really driving the opening play. And I think as the sort of the first half went on, really, I think we just seemed to fade. We didn't look like we had any ideas at all. There wasn't really any drive from the middle, and I think I would probably put that down to the fact that Wharton really is relied upon now as that person, you know, that's going to thread those balls, you know, across the park and indeed in forward as well. But I think looking back at the starting lineup, I mean, I get that it's the system, but I don't know. I think I understand they're trying not to lose that game, but you know, I still look at it and I think Nketiah and Mateta, should they really be in the starting lineup? And for me, I think they should be. You know, how he makes that work, I don't know. And then I get confused because I suddenly start thinking, well, why did they buy Nketiah? You know, if Mateta's in the form that they're in. So either way, I was a bit disappointed to see Sarr on the bench.
Just a question for you, okay? If you don't mind, the question was being asked in the stands last night. You probably heard the same sort of thing, Yasmin. Kamada, what is this thing with Kamada? Right? Greg. I think this is the best way of doing this. Is as you're mentioning these names. I think we may as well have discussions on it. He got booked early on. Yeah. I can't remember what minute it was in, but he got booked quite early on. It was, I think, the 88th minute before the manager took him off. And you said pre-show, and as we started the show, we're all desperate for Wharton to come on and affect things. Why did he leave him on?
I have no idea.
What does he offer?
Nothing. I mean, his passing is awful. He's always going to get booked as well. He seems to do really stupid fouls at times. And I thought because he's been booked, he might even go off at half time, you know, and we'll bring someone else on. But then it was a while till we made a change, and that didn't really make much sense. And then I didn't really think that Nketiah should have gone off when he did, because he was the chance, you know, with Eze that we had of trying to score a goal. So it was just all really bizarre. I don't know if it's the money we're paying him, so we think we've got to get our money's worth, but he's going to end up costing us more than that with what he keeps doing. You know, it's just, I can't stand watching it.
I got the impression from what I may be wrong here because I haven't got the figures in front of me, but I believe he's on 105 grand a week. Would I be right?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I mean, obviously I haven't seen his wage slip, but yeah.
Tim, I get the distinct impression from you, mate, that you're not a Kamada fan.
For me, Kamada, that whole situation just sums us up at the moment. He shouldn't be playing. The only reason he's playing is because he's Glasner's boy from a previous club that he played with. But you look around the whole of the team, and there's so many issues that he isn't picking up. But yeah, for me, Kamada shouldn't be even on the subs bench. He's just not good enough.
Okay, thank you. And I wanted to say, leave that on the screen, Lucy, please. I wanted to say good evening to somebody that's out there, okay? But I couldn't even try it if I wanted to. Sven, Rogel, Nielsen, Joel Stein, okay? And you're sitting somewhere in the Faroe Islands. So good evening to you. But very importantly, thank you to everyone who's watching out there. Yeah. Most importantly, our very own and much loved Bruce Muirhead. Okay, he's out there. Bruce, I won't go into any details, I promise you. He's in hospital currently and he's watching us from his hospital bed. And we on the Red and Blue Review are sending you massive love, mate. Good evening to you. Get well soon, buddy. Greg, sorry, mate, I interrupted. Over to you.
Yeah, no problem. I was just looking back through the comments, but really, I think the glaring thing at what I see from the players brought in is that it feels very much to me that Sarr and Nketiah are Friedman purchases and Kamada and Lacroix are Glasner purchases. And I think what that really smacks of is that there's a compromise there. I feel like Glasner really has had to bring in two players he probably didn't want. So I can't understand the recruitment process here. I don't know why that would happen and why Friedman would have that level of authority to say, well, we're bringing these guys in, whether you like it or not. I mean, clearly that's just my opinion and not necessarily fact. But they're not playing Sarr. We know Sarr's got Premier League experience, and we know Kamada doesn't. I'm a bit shocked with Kamada. You know, I think he scored twice against Arsenal in the Europa League a few years ago. You know, and was banging him in from 18 yards and looked really sharp. And we just haven't seen that player, have we? He just hasn't shown any kind of ability to what we really need. And for him to last on the pitch for 88 minutes, I mean, for my money, he really should have gone off instead of Nketiah. You know, I can't understand that substitution at all.
No, a bizarre one. And what about Eze's form, people? Luce, I think you said pre-show that Eze is really struggling for form. You see, I know they're doubling up on him, and they are constantly doubling up on him. They've found a way of stopping us and stopping Eze. Your thoughts on Eze, please, my love?
Yeah, we just don't see that flair from him. I mean, last night there was, I think there was a couple of long-range shots, but I didn't really see too much link-up play. There wasn't that pizzazz, but he gets man-marked. He's always got 2 minimum players on him. So it does close him down. We were sort of missing Wharton, so there's not that drive in midfield. I was impressed with Hughes yesterday. I know, I think he's like the 60-minute man, isn't he, really? But, I thought he was quite a good driving force. But sort of Eze just goes missing for like large parts of the game, I think. And that then just means that we don't have that fire and that spark in attack. It's very much left to sort of small piecemeal sort of moments in attack. But yeah, obviously sort of wanting him to come back to form. However, I think if he's going to be sort of man marked like we used to see Wilf get man marked like that, then it's going to scrub him out of the play till there's another player on the pitch with such sparks that they have to sort of share that man marking. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
Well, actually, I'm glad you said all that, because obviously last year we actually had 2 of them. We had Elise and Eze, and they couldn't double up on both of them. We're back to the Zaha situation, and I honestly feel I wanted to talk in detail about the loss of Elise, and Henderson, because I think it's actually affected Munos's game. Munos doesn't seem to be playing greatly at the moment, because he hasn't got the outlet of Elise in front of him, and there is nobody in front of him, so he's having to do 2 people's jobs. Thoughts, anybody?
I think, I'll take that one. I think that's symptomatic of what's wrong with the club at the moment, or the squad. Last season, towards the end, when we were on that run, why were we winning games? Because we were pressing. Because you had Munoz and Mitchell high up the pitch, putting pressure on the defence. But now Munoz basically never goes above the halfway line. It's like he's been told by Glasner, don't go up, don't press forward. The crossing's awful. The passing is terrible. There's no enthusiasm. There's no drive in the team. There's no leadership. And I think basically he's almost lost the players, to be fair.
Okay, Greg, over to you, mate.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the comments here. I've just lost it. Sorry, it was David Campion just mentioned, did Oliver Glasner actually want Eddie and Sarr? So it seems that that was we're thinking in a similar sort of alignment there. We've got Teresa Baker saying, why are we even talking about replacing Glasner? Ridiculous. He hasn't had a full year. I guess that's something that we can come on to. But the comment that I wanted to speak about, Mark Drew says, we look lost as a team, no natural movement when passing. And I think that goes back to, again, I think to the Wharton conversation that we had a few moments earlier. It really felt like that there's no real emphasis. There's no outlet. There doesn't seem to be any kind of idea. I think when we had Anderson, lots of diagonal balls, Johnson in goal, lots of good passing out from the back. I think we are definitely missing Anderson, and I'm sort of in the camp here of I don't really understand why he was moved on. I mean, I do understand, and my opinion is it was a bean counting exercise. I think
exactly what he was.
Money, or he wanted too much money. He was happy. He didn't want to go. And they've looked at the numbers and they brought in Lacroix and they can make it work. Completely get that from a business point of view, but from a winning football games point of view, I don't understand it at all.
Did he want a long contract as well? And for his age,
I think
that was,
28. 28. I'd love to be 28. I really would. But I still think that you've got 5 years of still being able to play.
I understand that he was looking to double his weekly contract. As I'm sure you might be able to steer me, okay? But he was looking to double his salary and on a 5-year deal. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And I really wish we could have kept him, but I don't think we could have paid that money for that long, if you see what I mean, for his age. I know he's only 28, but and also they've got a policy, haven't they, once people get to 30 or whatever it is. So I'm upset to lose him. I think we've lost that leadership, although I did see Hughesy doing a bit of that last night.
And Cranfield, I saw your comment, okay, and I'm not going to pay any lip service, okay. Thank you very much. I'm quite pleased that Anderson went. I can't have anybody better looking than me surrounded Crystal Palace, okay. So I'm quite pleased he went, and I'm sure you all agree with my sentiments. Greg, back to you, mate.
Okay, just going back to the comments here. You're all mad if you think Kamada isn't good and Nketiah is. Wild imaginations. Tony Quinn. I haven't seen anything from Kamada, Tony, if I'm honest with you, aside from, being offside and missing a tap-in, but Nketiah to me showed endeavour and hit the woodwork and looked busy to me. So we'll have to agree to disagree, Tony.
Tim?
Yeah, that's the wonderful thing about football and how people can watch a game and see different things. Tony, I completely disagree with you because Kamada, how many times has he caught out of position? How many times when he's supposed to be defending, is he not? Does he lose his purse? Does he lose his man? It's not in the right place. He commits silly fouls. So now I'm with Greg that he's just not good enough. And he may have been a good player where he was, but the Premier League's an entirely different game or league to play in. I just don't see what you see in him.
I think secretly Tony Quinn is a secret Brighton fan for making a comment like that, because God forbid that I would ever agree with anything Tim Richards says, okay, let alone bloody Greg. Okay, but I actually completely concur with what they just said. I'm sure there is a player in there. Okay, I'm not gonna bash a red and blue player. Okay, I will not do it. Okay, it's not the sort of thing I would do. Even Ayew in his day. Okay, I would not bash him. Gel did, but I always thought there was a player in there. I think there's a player there in Kamada. I think it's something that we're yet to see. He needs some sort of support. He looks a little bit lightweight in that midfield, okay, and he's getting thrown off the ball far too easy. Lucy, you're about to say something.
No, I was just going to refer back when Tony sort of said that he was essentially a fan of Kamada. I asked him to sort of expand a bit on that, and I did put it on the screen. But so Tony came back and said Kamada's movement is much better, pops up all over the pitch, tracks back to help defend, and can move with the ball and can pass the ball. Also has a better strike than Nikita. I can't say his name, Eddie, who doesn't do any of those things. So sort of opposing opinions there, but that's what it's all about, right?
Of course it is. And there's a bloke out there, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you've seen him. He's a geezer out there called Penshaw Eagle, okay? Penshaw, good evening, mate. We know who you are, really. Ladies and gentlemen, in case you don't know who it is, that's Nigel Croucher, who's not producing this evening. He was also saying, what did Nigel say? He was going on something about Kamada. It's gone off my screen now, Luce. Can you see it? Yeah. He said, that's absolutely right. Getting international fans into Selhurst, okay? And that is the truth. I've never seen so many Oriental supporters inside Selhurst Park. And it's a good thing. And I'm sure there is a little bit of that, okay, which is why it's being played so regularly. It's a bit like the song thing at the Tottenham Stadium. You go to, I mentioned it when we went to Spurs away, there was a large Oriental community or Korean community inside the stadium to support Song, and there's a lot of that. I'm sure it's a business decision, and I'm sure it's offsetting some of that massive wages that he's on. If Gel was on the show, by the way, I've had comments, people asking me about Gel Holyoke. Okay, let me tell you all. Okay, Gel is on the mend. Okay, he was. I'll tell you how well Joe Holyoke is. He phoned me on the way up there in the car. I was in the car yesterday, and he phoned me and he was moaning in the car yesterday. So if Joe Holyoke is moaning, you know he's on the mend, I promise you. And he sends his love to you all. He won't be too far until he's back on the show. Tim.
Yeah, someone needs to point out to Nigel that people who live north of the Watford Gap are not international tourists, all right? So just let him know that.
Oh, is that what he thinks he's one of them, does he? All right, okay.
Well,
okay.
you know.
Greg, have you got any more on the game, mate?
Yeah, so I think really the first half really did peter out for Palace, and Forest were applying a lot of pressure, and I think really come the half-time whistle, I was glad that we'd managed to survive 0-0 unscathed, and you know naturally after the first 15 minutes that were quite bright, I thought the game just petered out into a bit of a scrappy affair, and I couldn't really work out if Nottingham Forest were playing well or they were poor and letting us back into the game, and we were poor and letting them into the game. And I think in hindsight, I think both teams were pretty scrappy, and I think there was probably a lack of quality really going on the pitch. So in the second half, there was only really, from memory, from one bright moment I can remember, Eze shooting and Sells tipping it onto the bar. So I think the second half started similarly, in the same vein as the first half. But then I think was it 60th minute that Wood, just gets a shot, skids along the ground, and unfortunately Henderson just, he just isn't able to palm it away. And I think from the replay, it looked like he sort of lands on the ball, and then it goes in. So I think it's just really unlucky, and it's just one of those. I think what I was thinking at that moment in time was, you knew then that Palace weren't going to get back into the game. I'll pass over to Yasmin.
You're on mute, yes.
Sorry, I'm couldn't unmute myself. I just felt that when the goal went in, immediately they just gave up. You could see it in their body language, everything. They did. That was literally what they did. And for us, like watching, we're like, oh no, like come on, there's still time to do something. And that was just awful to watch. And that's where you need someone geeing them up and saying, come on, we can get back. And then with Henderson, because I know a lot of people are criticising him now and saying, should we have played a different keeper? Well, I don't think so. We had Remy Matthews on the bench, and I don't think we should have played him instead of Henderson. But he made like a really good save not long after the goal. And I think everyone just immediately got onto him, and Sam Johnson should come back and all this different stuff. But
I'm glad you mentioned it. Because we were just talking about the old boy up in Sunderland, that does a lot of producing for the show. He's literally just messaged me. He said, for when you're talking about the goalkeepers and Dean Henderson conceding, he said currently he's conceding 1.38 goals per match. And Sam Johnson, thank you, Yaz, great segue. Sam Johnson, is conceding 2.6 per match this season. And if you notice the other night, he actually got dropped. His question to you all, or his statement to you all, is make your mind up. Who do we want? Somebody who's going to let in more goals, or somebody who has got the occasional Ricky in Henderson. My thought process on that particular subject is it was a poor effort. He seemed to dive over the ball. He even got an arm to the ball, and it still squirmed under his arm and went into the back of the net. And as you made a cracking point about body language. The body language on the whole team just deflated at that moment. Gay's going on the pitch to the rest of them. Come on, lift yourselves up. Well, they just didn't. We did have a decent spell after the goal. But it's always that Chris Wood, isn't it? It's always that bloody Chris Wood. Go on, Luce.
There's a few comments about Chalobah as well, whose header, he was sort of clearing it, but he's kind of headed it back towards the 18-yard box in that space. And he's practically been let off the hook for this. I mean, don't get me wrong, Henderson could have done better, but we shouldn't be heading the ball back there for shots to be sort of flung in. So for me, I think it's not all on Hendo for that one. And as Yasmin said, he went on to sort of follow up with an excellent save. So I think we've kind of let our defenders off of that one. And I'll put them on the screens, but there are quite a few comments sort of saying that as well. Sorry, Greg, I saw you with your hand up there, buddy.
No, not at all. Just an interesting comment from Andrew Adams. Were we that bad last night, or just looking at the negatives? We've had our chances, as we've had in every game, but can't score, and silly defensive mistakes. I think to answer that, Andrew, I think we were poor because I just thought the distribution was really lacking. There was no urgency, no real direction, and I think really if it wasn't going through Eze to Nketiah, I couldn't really see us scoring. One other thing I'll add to that before I move on to Nick. Is I think when Mateta came on, he looked lively and he was involved in a couple of opportunities. So I think we were poor. Yes, I think there are more negatives than positives, unfortunately. We're not taking those chances at the moment, which, as we know, is fine margins. If we've not hit the bar twice, or if Sells doesn't tip it on, we've won the game 2-1 and we've got a different show. But, I do think that it was a poor performance. Nick, over to you.
Yes, I'm going to finish up on the Henderson bit, if you don't mind, okay? And I want to hand it over to you. Ladies and gentlemen, I was one of them who drove whatever it was 3 or 4 hours up and 3 or 4 hours back. So I do have some skin in this particular fight, okay? But I did leave on the final whistle. I left the stadium as the final whistle went. So I saw the entire game. What I didn't see, however, is what Yaz is about to report here, was the abuse the Palace fans gave Henderson when he came over at the end of the game. Yes?
Yeah, so it wasn't all fans. It wasn't as bad as like the Arsenal-Brighton game last season, but there was quite a few, and Henderson was responding to them again, which was his mistake last time when he did that. But I was quite angry, really, because the confidence is so low in the team. We just can't seem to get a break that's going to lift us up. And I personally never do that even to Kamada, who I'm not keen on right now, but I'm hoping he'll come good. I would not do that because I just don't think that's Palace, and I don't think that's what we should do. I did end up telling someone that in no uncertain terms. So I just think that at the moment we're very quick to start shouting at the players, and I think JP as well had a bit, because both him and Henderson tend to respond to the fans. Henderson was holding his badge to try and say, how much he's with the club, and all they were doing was shouting abuse back, and I just don't agree with that.
Thank you, and well said. And I'm glad you pointed it out to me pre-show, because obviously I didn't know about it because I was already on my way back to the car at that point. And yes, Nigel, my car did make it that far because I've got a new car. And Mark Drew, no, I'm not a bus driver anymore. I'm now an instructor working in the private sector. So take your comment about your bus and stick it where the sun don't shine, my dear boy. Okay, and I love you very much, of course. Okay, right, Greg, hand it back. Okay,
yes. Look, I think really there was very little positives after the goal, and I think. Like I said before, I think Mateta really, there was a couple of opportunities. I thought he looked bright and lively. I'm just a bit frustrated that he's not starting with Nketiah. I think a team like Palace has got to try and score and take chances. And I get that there's a system, but for me and my money, I'd rather just have the both of them start. The last positive I can think of is the substitution of Agbenoni. Coming on for his debut, and in all fairness, within 6 minutes, I think again looked a lot brighter than a lot of the players had done. That's probably down to nerves, etc. But I think what's really pleasing about that is that it's another academy graduate coming through. A lot of these guys don't make it, and they get the odd appearance, and then unfortunately, they sort of fade into obscurity. So. Very much hope that that he can kick on and get a bit more of a start. I think my only real complaint is why did he give him 6 minutes? I think 15, 20 minutes to go, and I think having him on the pitch as an unknown quantity might have been something for our advantage.
Thank you, Graham. I'm really pleased you highlighted Asher because he spoke to Palace TV after the game last night, and the quote came from him. Asher Agbenoni became the latest Palace Academy graduate to feature for the club, and he spoke to Palace TV after making his debut appearance against Nottingham Forest. He said, "I'm feeling good." Agbenoni said after coming on late in the second half against Forest. Obviously, the result didn't go the way we wanted it to, so that kind of overshadows my debut. But I'm still grateful. Agbenoni has been at the club since the age of 9. Tim, Tim? Can you mute your mic, mate? Agbenoni has been at the club since the age of 9 and has progressed through the ranks to earn his first team debut at the 6th round. He's predominantly been a tricky winger that takes on his player, and went on to reveal that he was encouraged by the manager and coaching staff when he came on. It is another one in the production line of our academy. The academy is obviously wiping its own feet with the succession of players coming through, which is what it was set up for. And he's a local lad, and he's been at the club since a young lad. It fills me nothing but joy. Yaz, your thoughts on another one off the production line?
Yeah, I was really pleased to see that, and I was cheering, desperately wanting him to do something, and he was. I mean, actually, out of everything, he was quite a bright spark just for those few minutes. But it was really good to see. I think we should see more of our youth team if we're struggling.
Well, I agree. I mean, and there was another young fella on there who I'm not too Kapora, who was on the bench last night. I'm not too familiar with him, but I know he's another graduate from the academy. It's just, Greg, for our long-term stability as a club, either in the Premier League or out of it, it's good to see, isn't it?
Yeah, look, absolutely. Just an interesting comment here from Paul Holden. Do we give the academy enough time, spend longer on it, and really use the local potentials? I think the really important thing to state on that is not all these guys are going to make it, and not, it's like panning for gold, isn't it? You're going to get the odd player once every 5 to 10 years that's hopefully, your Zaha, your breakout player. And that's no disrespect to the guys that don't maybe achieve that status, but you are trying to mine such a difficult field. And some of these players will be sold on. Name escapes me, but the chap that's just signed for Everton that went to Lyon, O'Brien. It's just one of those things. Sometimes they don't get it right, although maybe they did get it right. Maybe there was a financial incentive. Who knows really?
That sales to Everton that you quite rightly highlighted of O'Brien, Jake O'Brien going to. We got a £2 million sell-on fee that pays a large percentage of what we have to pay for the running of the academy. It's wiping its own feet. I think the comment of the night last night. Okay, I mean, bearing in mind we are talking about the balloon heads that were slagging off the players when they came over to thank the away fans last night, and we are talking about these balloon heads. One of the balloon heads that was standing behind me last night, did make me chuckle a little bit. So, what is the manager with his manager Glasner bloke? Why isn't he? I mean, he's sitting on the bench. Why not bring on Jezrin Raksaki? Now, in my world, isn't he currently plying his trade at Sheffield United? I mean, there's some stupid people amongst our fan base. Why is he not bringing on Raksaki, is what he asked last night. And people turned around and looked at this bloody balloon head and thought, it's quite embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. Sorry, Greg, carry on with the game, mate. Have you got anything left on it?
Look, I think really that, naturally the game petered out, and unfortunately, being the ever cynic that I am, I didn't really have any belief that we were going to get back into the game. So, when it's all too familiar, that's place to worry. I think I want to believe in Glasner, and I want to believe that last season wasn't a fluke, and I want to believe it wasn't just down to Anderson and Elise. And I think the team is just there's something not quite right with it at the moment, and whether that's the tactics or the substitutions or the manager or the players, I think we've got to keep the faith a little bit. I do think Glasner's probably got 4 more games. That's just an opinion. I'm thinking after 12 matches, you're a third of the way through.
Stealing my thunder, but carry on. Okay. As soon as you finish the game, we're going to talk about that.
I think, you know, in the hire and fire nature of the Premier League these days, I think if Palace, if the board seriously believe that we're in threat of relegation, they will sack Glasner. And you know, their MO is survival each season, and I know that's a fairly negative thought, but I think they're very firmly in that we must not get relegated camp more than anything else. So I think four games really is what he's got. And I think the next three is Tottenham. I forget now, but again,
Wolves.
then Wolves. So you know, there's some big games there. You know, I think in those next four games, I think you can only really afford to lose one more. We've got to start getting points on the board, and we don't want to get cut adrift. Right. So the game ends 1-0, and I think nobody's had a really particularly good evening of it, fans or players, really.
Thank you, mate. I'm very grateful for your insight onto doing those notes. I know through it, you're quite late this afternoon, so I do appreciate it. Okay, I'm glad you brought up the Glasner question, because when we were in the middle of that purple patch at the end of last season, I made a bit of a bold statement. I got a little bit of criticism for it on social media, and my statement was something along the lines of, can we keep hold of Oliver Glasner? Okay. The question, and my thought process was, he's been so successful so quickly, a bigger club might have come in for him. Greg, you've already given us your viewpoint. Okay. I spoke to my son earlier, Sam, my oldest son, and he said to me, he thinks he's got 2 more games. The Tottenham game that we're not expecting anything out of, and the Wolves game. We've got the Villa game sandwiched in between that. That's the cup game. How long has there is some noise in the background, guys. Could I do me a favour? Could I kindly ask you to mute your mic if you're not talking? So, Lucy, I'm going to come to you first. He's got a bit of credit in the bank in my eyes, but what do you think?
I think he's got a couple of games left. There's an interesting comment. I think it was by Mark Drew, and this is something I picked up on yesterday. That when the camera did pan to Ollie, he was sat in the dugout, and that in itself is a bit of a non-verbal communication that you're kind of looking at. And you're like, why aren't you on the sideline? Why aren't you on that touchline screaming at the players, giving direction? That's his style. We've seen him in the touchline, in that sort of walking around and shouting. And I didn't really see him do that. I mean, maybe it was just when the camera panned. But I think he's got a few games, at least till Christmas. I can't see them getting rid of him, because I do think he's got some goodwill in the bank. And I still, even if it's not working at Palace for him at the moment, I think he's a quality manager, and I think they'll be reluctant to sort of move him on. But yeah, that's my thoughts really.
Thank you. And Tim, your thoughts on the same subject? You're on mute.
Yep, there we go. It's a difficult one, because if we do get rid of him, who's going to come in? I mean, look at the problems we had trying to find a manager last time. 3-4 games, performances have got to pick up, but then he's got a track record of falling out at clubs where he seems to be like when he was Europe. He was great when things were going well. He was a good manager and he was cooperative and he spoke. But then as soon as things started going not quite so right, he threw his toys out the pram. So, yeah, I mean, someone did put a comment that the camera panned to Parish, who had a face like thunder. So, you know, we can't afford to get relegated. And like someone said, I think it was Greg said, the board, if they start thinking, oh, this isn't looking good, they're not going to hold back, are they?
Yes, can you see Ray Lewington putting his shorts on one more time? You're on mute.
I really hope not. I mean, I do agree with him. I just don't know who we would get instead. I was thinking before they had until Christmas, but then I suddenly had a flashback to that Brighton game last season, the away game, and I thought, I don't think we could face another game like that, where they walk all over us. So I don't know. I mean, the game on Sunday, I don't think that should be one of the games, because I don't think we're going to get anything out of it. But I say that, then I felt we were better against Liverpool. So we sometimes do it more for the bigger teams, and the ones where we should be picking points up, we seem to just crumble.
Tim? Mute.
Yeah.
You sound better when you mute. By the way, you do sound better when you're muted. Okay, carry on.
Well spotted, mate. Well spotted. We talk about Glasner a lot, and yes, he's the manager, he's the coach. But once those players cross the line, I'm sorry, I think they've got a lot of responsibility of what's going on at the moment. The way they're playing, no manager can legislate for just the poor passing, the awful crossing. I mean, like last night, you look at the difference in quality to the crosses coming in from Forest that were coming in from us. You can't blame the manager for that. These are professional sportsmen who have spent years playing this game, training. They can't pass the ball most of the time. They can't cross the ball. There's no energy from them. Apart from Hughes, there's no energy. The manager can instill that in the players, but once they cross that line, it's down to the players to do it. And I think, yes, Glasner's on thin ice at the moment, and I'd drop Eze, to be fair, because I'm sorry, but he's doing nothing at the moment apart from causing us problems.
Thank you, mate. Lucy, did you have your hand up?
No, I was just shaking my head at dropping Eze. I think that's ridiculous. We never dropped Zaha for those reasons. And I think sort of Eze has now stepped into that talisman role for us at the moment. And
Lucy, you say
Tim,
that.
He's at the moment, he's our only danger. And that's the sad reality. He can shoot and score from outside the box. He hasn't. And I still think, I think I said this last night in one of the chat groups that we're all in, had his free kick in the very first game, was it Brentford, have been allowed, as it should have been, we would be having a totally different conversation now. Our confidence would be up. We would have ridden it. No, I don't see.
You see, the problem is, that's the problem. He knows he can't get dropped. So where's the pressure on him? Where's his drive to get better or to make a change? He knows he's going to get picked. I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. If you're not performing and there are other players on the bench, give them a chance. We're always saying about give youth a go, give some of the academy players a go. But if they see a player like Eze, who, yes, I agree, should be a brilliant player, but game after game, making mistakes, poor efforts. When Benteke did it, we all slaughtered him. But Eze does it, and it's, we'll make excuses and let him keep playing.
Yeah, but Benteke wasn't dropped, was he?
You know?
We didn't drop Zaha. We didn't drop Benteke. I wouldn't drop Eze. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's playing well enough, but he's our only threat. Why would we drop him? So we might not like his.
Before you two get into a physical punch up with each other, okay? And it's making great TV, I've got to tell you. But is this the aforementioned Christian Benteke that's just won the Golden Boot over the MLS over Lionel Messi? Is that the same guy that we're talking about?
Could well be. Again, well spotted, Nick. Great research.
But of course, okay, it was segued by my wonderful team. So, right, on to the Loan Watch, people. Talking about the constant line we keep getting out of our academy. Owen Goodman conceded the only goal of the match against AFC Wimbledon, who lost away at Notts County. Now, Notts County, why does that sound familiar? Oh, yeah, because I was there last night. Joe Whitworth. He's really pulling up trees, okay? Talking about goalkeepers. He played the full 90 minutes for Exeter City and kept another clean sheet as they won 2-0 away at Shrewsbury Town. Joe Whitworth was man of the match. Now, if you haven't seen what's on your screen, the audacious skill that he showed in beating this defender, he literally pulled that ball around the back of his forward leg, okay, and just completely sold the number 9 a dummy. If you haven't seen it, go and look at it. Joe Whitworth, not only was he man in the match for Exeter City, and my notes don't tell me what I'm about to tell you, but Joe Whitworth actually broke the record for Exeter City. I think he's now completed 7 clean sheets. Is a record for that club, and our Joe Whitworth has done it. And by the way, I had the pleasure of meeting Joe the back end of last season when I attended one of the DSA functions at Sellers Park. And what a nice lad he is. He's a proper family man. He's a Crystal Palace supporter. His mum and dad are big fans. He's a really cracking guy and absolutely wonderful. And nothing will make me more prouder to come Palace's number 1. So we have another one for the future there. Yeah, all this nonsense about his stature isn't big enough. He's not a big enough player, blah, 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 because he's not very tall. Load of old bollocks. Julian Speroni wasn't a big goalkeeper. Okay, and look what happened to him. Danny Emery played the full 90 minutes for Bromley, who lost 2-1 home to Tranmere Rovers. Oh, look, Jezrin Raksaki, you blue Ned, okay, was on the bench for Sheffield United. He came on in the 77th minute for Sheffield, and they lost 2-0 away at Dirty Leeds on Friday night. Luke Plange came on from the bench in the 73rd minute for Helsinki, who also lost 1-0 away at KUPS, whoever they are in the playoffs. David Ozo on loan at Derby County and Taya Adramola at Stockport County were both missing from their respective matches due to injuries. Now, Greg, I'm going to hand over to you for a minute because I can see that I've gone purple again. So I'm going to log out and I'll come straight back in. I want to talk about, please, I'm going to feed you a line and I'd like you lot to discuss how much we are missing Elise and Anderson. Could this be what is causing the problems? I'll be back in a minute.
I think it's the tactics. I think the formation. I think the lack of leadership and clearly losing a world-class talent. Unfortunately, you know, all summer we've seen people complaining on Twitter that we haven't replaced Elise. I don't think you can. I you know, he's an absolute one-off. You know, and I think probably one of the best players that's ever played for Palace. So I think losing the leadership of Anderson, you know, Anderson did captain the club, you know, was liked at the club, and as we've discussed, sold for you know, off-field reasons. But I think it's a blend of the two. I think the new players coming in that you'd like to think who've worked under Glasner before, you know, really, maybe for me, certainly the expectation was a little higher on them given the relationship. But I just don't think his plan A is working. And does Oliver Glasner have a plan B? As you alluded to, Nick, you know, he has fallen out with, I think, all of the teams he's managed and subsequently left when things were not looking so good. So yeah, I think to answer your question, I think it's a blend of them both. But just going back to the Kamada thing, much like what Yasmin says, you know, he's not impressing me yet, but you know, I'd never knock a player. You know, they're trying. You know, they are. He's new to the league, new to the country, and new to the team. So the parallel I'm trying to draw is I remember when Jedinak first signed for the club, and he looked pretty tall and skinny. And I just remember seeing him in his first game, thinking that guy's never going to make it. You know, so my kind of thing that I'm taking away from Kamada at the moment is sometimes it takes time, and I think we have to get behind him and you know, hope that he can improve on what he's shown so far, which we all know isn't really what we'd hoped for.
Yes, your thoughts, please, because you go to every home game, every home and away game, unlike Ian Noble. I respect your views more than I do his, because obviously he's been absent from the last game or so. Your thoughts on those two, please, Elise and Anderson.
Yeah, I mean, we are missing both of them. With Elise, as everyone said, you can't replace him. We're never going to be able to get another Elise, and I think the whole world is just finding out about how good he is. So, yeah, I don't know what we do about that, to be honest with you. With Anderson, it's his leadership that we are missing at the moment. He did have quite a few mistakes in him sometimes. I remember one game where I think we went 2 goals down. They were both Anderson's mistakes. But I just think what's wrong at the moment is the confidence is so low. We can't, none of the decisions are going for us. We're not getting penalties we should have. You know, when you're in that kind of rut, everything's going against you, and that's what's happening to us at the moment. So we just need to get a bit of luck, which I hope that we will.
Thank you, my lovely. I appreciate that. Tim, your thoughts? While he takes himself off mute, Lucy, your thoughts, please.
I think let's look forward. We clearly miss Elise, we clearly miss Anderson, but we've got new players, and I don't think it does us any good sort of to look backwards.
Yeah, fair point, actually. Sorry, Tim, over to you, mate.
Yeah, I completely agree. Move on. They've gone. Don't like it, but it's the way the world works. I mean, for me, the formation's got to change, because there's no point playing 3-5, whatever he's playing, if Munoz and Mitchell are not pressing, are not pushing forward, which they're not. So for me, go back to a 4-4-2 and have JP up front with Nketiah. Stick Eze on the wing, have Wharton and Doucouré in the middle. Give that a go, because patently the formation he is playing is not working.
Thank you, mate. And personally, I actually prefer it when you and Lucy are fighting. It makes for a much more entertaining show. Bring back the old battling Lucy and Tim, please. Henshaw Eagle asked in the chat, does Anderson miss the Palace game? Yes, he does, because he got a 3-match ban from following his red card at the weekend. Mark Drew, good evening, mate. I know you're out there. Okay, now I might have to take issue with your comment, okay? And Lucy's struggling to find it as we speak, so I'll tell you what it was. Okay, he just asked a question. There's 3 worse teams in the Premier League than us. Normally, I would agree. Okay, however, there is still 3 teams worse than us this season. If there are, I'm struggling to name them. Okay, Southampton, Wolves, maybe. Okay, is there anybody else that you can say is playing worse than us? Yes.
No, at the moment, I don't think so. I had hoped Ipswich would be in that bracket, but they seem to be doing better than us at the moment.
Yeah.
Which is at the moment why I'm getting a little bit worried.
Greg, your thoughts? Can you think of another team worse than us in the Premier League at the moment to take that 3rd spot?
No, unfortunately, I think it is us, and much like Yasmin there. You're kind of hoping that it is Ipswich. I think the difference between Palace and Ipswich will be the fact that we've been in the division for a lot longer, established, with the squad that we have, and they haven't. So they're in the first season, and it gets difficult around about February. So if they find themselves on a downturn, it's very difficult to come out of that. So unfortunately for Ipswich, that's what I'm hoping for. But at the minute, a 17th finish for the 24-25 season we'll write it off, and I'll look forward to the cricket again, I think.
Right, okay. I want to touch very quickly on results from the other teams within Sellers Park since our last show. Okay, the under-21s on Friday the 18th in the Premier League International Cup was played at Sellers Park. The under-21s went down 1-0 to Sporting CP under-21, whoever they are. In the women's fixtures, okay, on the Sunday the 13th, English Super League BBS Stadium, we went 1-0 down to that lot down on the south coast, okay? And on the 20th, last Sunday, at the St Helens Stadium in the WSL, Liverpool played Crystal Palace women, okay? And they got a massively credible 1-1 draw away at Liverpool at the weekend. So congratulations, ladies. You're not being walked all over in the WSL, and it's great to see. And that lineup was Yanis Green, Aspen, Veggie, Woodman, Cato Potter, Riley Blanchard, and I can't say her name, G-E-J-L is her name, and Aspen, and the goal scorer Stengel up top, and she scored her goal for her. I watched every single minute of that game. I encourage you guys, if you get the opportunity to watch it on Palace TV, all the Palace ladies games are being covered on there. We have got a big game coming up shortly at Sellers Park against the champions Man City, and by all means get yourselves down to Sellers Park. It's really good. And Paul Bristow is telling me Sporting CP, Nick, are more commonly known as Sporting Lisbon over there or over here. What do you mean over here? Bristow, you don't tell me you're in Lisbon, because you were with me last night standing at the bar. So don't give me that crap, okay? And it was good to see you last night, buddy. I'm glad you got home safely. Okay, Upcoming fixtures, please, Lucy. Okay, so obviously this weekend on Sunday we are home to Tottenham, which is a 2 o'clock kickoff. I can't go, sadly. Okay, then sandwiched between us and the Wolves game, we've got the Aston Villa League Cup fixture, and that's on Wednesday, the 30th of October at 7:45. The Wolves game is the late Saturday game away at Molineux on the 2nd of November, followed by Fulham at home on the 9th of November, Villa away, ironically again, and then at 3 o'clock on the 23rd of November. And we finish off this group of fixtures at home to Newcastle. So out in the chat, how are we going to get on this weekend against Spurs? I'd love to know your thoughts. And by the way, in case you think I haven't mentioned your comment that's in the chat, I've seen everybody's comment and I will go back and read them post-show, okay? I promise you I will read each and every one of them. Monty's just given us his predictions for the next 6 fixtures. Mate, I'm very good. I don't know if you got a stutter there or something, mate, but nice to see you on there, Mike. I hope you're well, buddy. I'd like to know your thoughts. How are we going to get on against Spurs on the weekend? I don't. There's many people think we're going to get anything from that game, but you never know. It'd be a real Palace-y thing to do, wouldn't it, for us to pull off something against that lot? Okay. I know Song will get his usual solitary goal against us. He always does it. And so, but how do you think we're going to get on this weekend? We're going to lose 4-1 according to Tony Quinn. Told you he's a Brighton fan. I'm sure Paul Grant saying Palace nil, Song 3. Yeah, I'll make you probably right there. 6 points out. That lot says Bruce. We're going to get a draw against Spurs. Sadly, I won't be available to make that game this weekend. I'm being the plastic because I'm going to see my granddaughter in Preston up north again. That would be too noble. That's 2 away trips up north in 4 days for me, mate. Okay. Plastic. Okay. Hush now, Nick. Okay, says Tony Quinn. Right. Okay. So our next show, because we are playing Sunday, I believe Lucy's Monday. As if by magic. Look, you're so talented. You are so talented. We will return on Monday, the 28th of October at 8 o'clock, where I will be back to host that one as well. Guys, this has been a difficult show to do, and it is now 9 o'clock, so I'm going to wrap it up. Can you please give me something positive, okay? And I'll kick you off, okay? Because I don't want to end the show on negatives because it has been a difficult one to do. I'm going to give you the positive of that the academy is blossoming. Greg.
My positive is that there's only about 62 days till Christmas.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Cheers for that. Okay. Timo, I know you can't do positive, but can you try and turn one of your negatives into a smile?
We're not bottom.
Yeah, there you go. That's as good as it gets from Tim Richards. Blessing. Yes, what you got?
Well, I'm struggling. I think that we've still got Mark and he hasn't gone to Newcastle.
Yeah, that'd be a matter of time. Lucy, one from you, and then I need to mention Tom Clark Samuel.
I think that I love Christmas, so I'm looking forward to that.
Lucy, don't forget, I've only got a small car, so don't make my present too large. I can't get in the back of my car, please. Tom Clark Samuel, ladies and gentlemen, runs our Instagram page. Please get onto our Instagram page. Give him a like, share, or hug, or whatever you need to do on Instagram, because I don't have Instagram. Like I don't. There you go. Instagram handle, tag, or whatever it's called. red_and_blue_review. Give him some love on there. He works tirelessly on our behalf, and we are grateful for everything he does. Likewise, we are with Nigel and Lucy, and Greg, our wonderful producers on this show. Thank you very much. As for the panel tonight, yes, lovely to see you. Oh, is she frozen or have I frozen? And Tim, lovely to see you, mate. But you know I'm lying, okay?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen out in YouTube and Facebook land, thank you for joining us this evening. I've been Nick Philpott and this wonderful panel of talented people. We'll see you again next Monday at 8 o'clock. Come and join us then. On behalf of us all, good night and stay safe. Good night, everyone.
See you.